from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. It's great to be with all y'all this morning. I'm pre-recording this morning's shows. I'm obviously traveling, as many of you that are watching the show can tell. So it's great to be with all y'all. We've got a packed show today. I mean, packed. My phone's going off this morning as we're getting kind of stuff that's happening here in live, and a bunch of stories, including the massive cyber attack on X yesterday, a bunch of different vulnerabilities, and some a flurry of activity from the Federal Trade Commission. We'll get into all of that on this morning's show, so don't go anywhere. If you're enjoying a beverage this morning, like I would love to enjoy my double espresso with all of y'all. Unfortunately, that's not the case as I'm traveling. So coffee cup cheers to all of y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, follow, share, like, and comment. Let me know if you have any stories you want us to deep dive, like the one I just did right there. Cybersecurity is not at the center of everything, and that's okay. That was our most recent Saturday article. These articles are available exclusively at cyberhubpodcast.com. You can go subscribe, get them in your inbox Saturday morning, enjoy them over a cup of coffee. So there's that. Let's get started with X going down yesterday. And it wasn't just, down for a few minutes. Collectively, I think looking at the global data was around 12 hours all in all that there was instability in the platform. So there's a piece to that. Now, we're not going to get into what Elon Musk said in his interview or who he blamed for it. We know that the group that claimed responsibility is Darkstorm, and Darkstorm is a pro-Palestinian group that really started targeting Israel, Europe, and the U.S. following the murderous attacks by Hamas on October 7th. So on their Telegram channel, they were posting that they were conducting a DDoS attack against Twitter. They were sharing screenshots and some check host sites and all of that good stuff there. Check host allows visitors to essentially check the availability of a website from different servers throughout the world. The website is commonly used during DDoS attacks to show that an attack is actually taking place. X is being protected by Cloudflare, which showed a captcha when suspicious IP addresses tried to connect to the site, or when a single IP address tried to generate too many requests. The site currently displays a Cloudflare captcha as shown below there. Hacktivists have demonstrated their time and time again, and obviously this is coming on the heels of Elon Musk saying, Jews would have a big part in fixing America, which, the pro-Palestinians want to globalize the Intifada. And so for those who don't know what globalizing the Intifada means, what those useless morons chant in the streets is taking what the Palestinians do to Israelis every single day in Israel and bringing it to the West, to Germany, to the UK, to the United States, by killing innocent civilians, women, children, irregardless, because, globalize the Intifada, because it's apparently cool for some people on college campuses, and some of them are really evil. So there's that aspect. Couldn't avoid it. Sorry. I try not to get personal on the show, but, pro-Palestinians, after October 7th, to see people in this country actually try to justify those attacks is absolutely reprehensible. So there's that there. We'll continue with a critical PHP vulnerability that would allow for remote code execution on some vulnerable servers, according to Greynoise. Now, I want to be very clear. This has a CVSS score of a 9 or 0.8, but there are specific conditions by which this could be exploited. So CVE 2024-4577 can be exploited only on Windows servers that are using Apache and PHP CGI. If they're not using that, then this vulnerability is not as applicable, but they are set to use certain code pages. It would allow to inject arguments remotely and execute arbitrary code. Because PHP's implementation in Windows does not consider the best fit behavior that controls the conversion of Unicode characters to the closest matching ANSI characters, attackers could supply specific character sequences that, when converted, would be misinterpreted as PHP options by the PHP CGI model. This CVE was disclosed back in June of 2024, when the first exploitation attributed to ransomware gangs were observed just simply 2 days later. Cisco is now warning that since January 2025, the security defects has been exploited in malicious campaigns targeting Japanese organizations across the education, entertainment, e-commerce, technology, and telecom sectors. So all in all, there's that happening there. An additional list of 5 additional vulnerabilities that were now added to CISA's KEV catalog. Those are CVE 2024-57968, which is an unrestricted file upload vulnerability in the Advantive Veracode that would allow a remote unauthenticated attacker to upload files to an unintended folder via upload.apsx. CVE 2025-25181, it's an SQL injection in the Advantive Veracode that would allow remote code and executing SQL commands. CVE 2024-13159er, which is a path traversal in Bounties EPM that allows a remote unauthenticated attacker to leak sensitive information. We're going to stay on Avanti here. So these are CVE 2024-13160 and 13161. All path traversals vulnerability in Avanti EPM have all been added to the KEV catalog and require immediate attention there. Before we continue on this morning's show, let's pay the bills for just a moment. Our friends over at Nudge Security have been staunch supporters of our program. Here's how they can help you get control of SaaS and Gen AI. Hey, security gang. I'm so happy to welcome back Nudge Security to the show. And let's talk a little bit about identity risks, data security risks, and third-party risks, and what do they all have in common. They're made a whole lot worse by SaaS sprawl. Every new SaaS account adds a new identity to secure a new place where sensitive data could end up and a new vendor risk management assessment you need to complete. Nudge Security addresses those risks at the source, helping you to protect and manage all of your apps, identities, and data anywhere and everywhere where it can happen. It all starts with discovery. Within minutes of starting your free trial, you'll have a full inventory of every SaaS account ever created by anyone in your org, along with insights into authentication methods, app-to-app integrations, vendor risk insights, and more. My team and I did this last summer. It was absolutely mind-boggling what we found. It helped us really kind of put a plan together and start a method of trying to automate security and governance tasks like detecting risks and misconfiguration. It helped us conduct user access reviews and help us offboard employees from specific apps that we didn't even know existed. It freed up our time for a lot more strategic work and vendor security profiles for every app, even Gen AI tools. It helped us do all of that, and it automated it, which I'm a big fan of. Nudge Security is graciously offering everyone a free 14-day trial by going to nudgesecurity.com/cyberhub. That's nudgesecurity.com/cyberhub. The link is in the show notes as well. Go get your free 14-day trial now. All right. So let's continue with the show. Palo Alto now disclosing the details of 5 high-severity vulnerabilities that are affecting Scada devices within the industrial and manufacturing space. So they affect Iconics and Mitsubishi Electric supervisory control and data acquisition products. Again, Scada products there, that's what that stands for. So the impacted products include the Genesis 64 and the MC Works 64. The vulnerability affects both the Iconic and Mitsubishi Electric products because one is the part of the other. The Scada vulnerability includes a DLL hijacking, that's CVE 2024-1182, an incorrect default permission, CVE 2024-7587, an uncontrolled search path element, CVE 2024-829er and 9852, and dead code issues, that's CVE 2024-8300. The exploitation of these holes requires authentication, so they're high complexity attacks, right? So they're not something that's wide open to the internet. But if an attacker is able to authenticate, they can gain access to the targeted organization system, execute arbitrary code, elevate privileges, manipulate critical files. And in a real world, they can leverage these Scada vulnerabilities to cause disruptions or even take control of a full system. So with that being said, you want to make sure you get those updated. The vulnerabilities were discovered by Palo Alto in early 2024 in Iconic Suite and Mitsubishi Electric MC Works versions 10.9 or 7.2 and 10.9 or 7.3 for Windows. Patches and mitigations were released last year, so you want to make sure you get those taken care of. In India, a Sidewinder attack that's attributed to an India-based cyber espionage group has been active for now almost 13 years. It's now ramped up attacks in the maritime and logistics sector, both in Africa and Asia. Many attacks have used various themed phishing emails to lure victims into clicking on some malicious documents. The documents do contain an exploit for CVE 2017-11882, a memory corruption vulnerability in Office that Sidewinder has used for years in its campaign to drop a post-exploitation toolkit called StealerBot on some vulnerable systems. So understand that some vulnerable systems have been vulnerable for 8 years. We're 2025 for those who forgot what year it is, or if you're just waking up from a coma. So the targets are across multiple countries in countries like Egypt, Djibouti, the UAE, Bangladesh, Cambodia, and Vietnam. According to Kaspersky, who've been tracking the attack since early 2024, they've also observed attacks against entities in some nuclear energy sectors. Signwiners ramped up focus on maritime and logistics. Just the group's expanded its target beyond its usual sector. And once again, they've widened their geographical scope for its operation. Security vendor consider Signwinder, aka Rattlesnake, or TAPT04, a relatively prolific threat group. They've got a long record of breaching organizations in South and Southeast Asia. So, like, we have to look at this specifically here if what they're targeting is. And a lot of our organizations today are global, or we're supported by a global supply chain. So I don't bring up these stories because they're cool or they're interesting. It's an awareness issue because cyber happens in context. And so, like with X, cyber happens in context. There's a context behind attacking Elon Musk and the pro-Palestinians attacking X and Elon Musk, and then what's happening to Tesla and subsequently everything else. It's all within the context. And so you have to look at that context and understand these threats do impact foreign supply chain operations. You have to evaluate those threats based on what we know these folks do and identify whether those threats create a specific critical vulnerability within your supply chain should something go wrong there, and then work with the business in order to build resiliency around that supply chain. So that's really, really important, is once you've identified this, is working with the people responsible on the business side to go, these are just some of the issues that we find a bit concerning that are coming from that region of the world or within this specific sector. These are kind of like a portfolio of attacks. I'd like us to maybe work together to try to build resiliency in the event something happens there so it doesn't impact our business here. That's the conversation to be had there. Let's continue with a flurry of FTC news. So the FTC did a civil investigative demand against MGM for the ransomware attack back in 2023. And they were seeking a whole bunch of answers. Part of this was the FTC wanted information to come into compliance with Section 5 of the FTC Act, the safeguards rules under the Graham, Leach, and Blaley Act, and the red flag rule under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So MGM Resorts intentionally refused to provide information to the FTC. Part of it is because they thought at the time that FTC chairwoman Lena Khan, who was at the casino at the time of the incident, should recuse herself because she had a conflict of interest. The company then petitioned to have the case taken away from Nevada in Washington, D.C., and they even questioned the jurisdiction altogether. Well, the FTC's now dropped all the charges against MGM, saying this investigation has 0 points to help in anything outside of dragging a victim through a whole bunch of government bureaucracy. So congratulations to MGM. And maybe the FTC can now change direction. Instead of going after the victims, maybe working more about going after the perpetrators, unless there's gross negligence, at which point, there's accountability to that there. The FTC also reported that Americans lost a record $12.5 billion to fraud last year. That's a 25% increase over the previous years. Again, cyber happens in the context, and you're noticing that the median loss in these types of scams is around $9,000, and that's in investment scams, which totaled around 5.7 billion of the accrued 12.5 billion. So around 40% were attributed to investment scams where people are trying to better their future. They're taking their hard-earned money and they're putting it into these scams where these people don't get it. Younger people have also reported losing money to fraud more often than people over the age of 70. And again, that comes into the world of all these different influencer and social media where you see these folks on your screen. They try to sell you something, they try to tell you something, and you go and you take a risk and it ends up being a rug pull or just a complete scam. However, if you take a look at what's really disturbing here is job scams and fake employment agency losses have also jumped significantly. They've tripled over the last 4 years, going from 90 million to nearly $500 million, 501 million within just 4 years. People lost over 3 billion to scams that started online compared to 1.9 billion lost to more traditional contact methods like call, text, or emails. However, people lost more money per person, a median of around $1,500 when they interacted with scammers over the phone. So phones are still there. The first method of contact has always been email. The second method of contact that's popular is phone calls. And so something to keep in mind when we talk about cyber awareness is how these threat actors approach our folks and how we defend against that. The FTC is also now reimbursing. Again, FTC has been really, really busy here, especially in the last few days. So later this week, the FTC will start distributing over $25.5 million in refunds to those that were misled by tech support companies Restoro and Reimage Scares Tactic. The FTC will send 736,375 PayPal payments starting on March 13th to consumers who were tricked into paying an unnecessary computer repair service. Between now and March 13th, those eligible for a refund will receive an email and must redeem the PayPal payment within 30 days. Restoro Cyprus Limited and Reimage Cyprus Limited will be fined $26 million. Were fined $26 million 1 year ago for violating the FTC Act and telemarketing sales rules after using online ads and pop-ups impersonating Windows pop-up and system warnings, saying the consumers' PCs were infected with malware. Since about January of 2018, the defendants have marketed deceptively, and so now people are going to get some of their money back. They're asked to pay around $58 for PC plans, and then they were selling them plans up to $500. So some folks will be getting some of their money back after the FTC action there. And then our final news for today: Google paying around $12 million in bug bounty programs to bug bounty rewards, to over 660 security researchers who reported security bugs through the company's vulnerability reward program in 2024. Among the highlights, the company revamped the VRP reward structure, bumping rewards up to a maximum of 151,515, while its mobile VRP now offers up to 300,000 for critical vulnerabilities in top-tier apps. So again, just showing you how much Google is investing in this and why these programs actually do work. And it's something that you can carry into the boardroom if you're trying to push a bug bounty program within your organization or your leadership to really kind of get that message across. That's it for our show this morning. But Level Zero Conference coming to Atlanta in just 20 short days on March 31st through April 2nd. Here's a message about what you can find there and a discount code in the show notes.
Are you prepared to deal with the constantly evolving cybersecurity threats to your operational technology systems? The Level Zero Conference is happening from March 31st through April 2nd and is designed to meet the unique needs of enterprise teams responsible for safeguarding the critical cyber-physical systems at the heart of their organization. Level Zero offers hands-on workshops led by industry leaders with years of practical experience. Register today and secure your spot at levelzeroconference.com.
So go check that out. That's it for our show this morning. Thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest and greatest. Until then, have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.